Hi everyone, thank you for joining in. Let's get started. Are you there? Are you there with us? Arya, let's go. Let's get started now. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much everyone for joining us today, and a very good evening. Welcome to the sixth AMA session of ONDC Presents Built for Bharat. The initiative is supported by Startup India, sponsored by industry leaders such as Google Cloud, Protein, Antelope, and Paytm, and powered by Hack to Skill. My name is Shakti Singh. I'm your friendly neighborhood program manager, and I'll be your host today for this session. And not just that, we will be walking through the whole agenda, as you can see on the screen. So we'll deep dive into the flow of today's session. We have our experts here, and today we will be addressing the frequently asked questions on two of the crucial problem statements under next gen ventures, which is last mile hyperlocal and reverse logistics. We will be first answering queries which we already have received from your side through our Google form circulations and requests on the support channels. And therefore, if time allows, we will take up questions from the chat. You can say, meanwhile, the speakers are explaining about the problem statements and we're talking it through. You can, if you have anything top of your head, any questions, feel free to post it in your chat box so that that can be addressed. It can be a question for masses as well. So just feel free to put that across. Not just that, let me just quickly introduce you guys to our speakers of the day. So we have with us Megha Bansal. She is the Vice President Network Governance at ONDC. She is currently leading the logistics domain for ONDC. She has held various leadership positions in the Ministry of Defense, where she worked as an IES. She has worked the last 6 years in delivery and Flipkart, where she was heading the return supply chain and e-card business excellence. Thank you for joining us, Megha, today.
Thanks, Shakti. Thank you so much.
We also have with us Vidhi Choraria, who is the director at Shadowfax, working on strategic projects and partnerships. Prior to this, she has spent over 7 years at Zomato on the side of demand generation. Thank you so much, Vidhi, for joining us today here. Pleasure
Hi,
to have you.
happy to be here. Hi, everyone.
That was just very short introduction. I truly believe that there's a lot more that you can add up to that. Before just not stealing your thunder to it, maybe you guys can quickly introduce yourself a little bit more. Maybe we can start with Megha and then Vidhi, you can go
Yeah, sure, Shakti. Thank you so much. Hi, good evening, everyone. So as Shakti mentioned already in brief, I mean, let's not waste time more in introduction, but yeah, I will just briefly explain what I'm doing in ONDC so that you can ask more questions on the basis of that. So at ONDC, currently, I'm leading the logistics domain and specifically with respect to whatever the API building and the smart contract or the digital contract that we speak, all the API building part. What we are trying here is those API contracts should be in sync with what is the industry standard currently, or what we can innovate more with respect to the industry. That is one part. Second is we are trying to expand it to different network participants pan India, and we currently went live with exports also in September, and also B2B logistics is gonna live soon. So with respect to all the things, I mean, if you have more questions other than what we are discussing today, I'm happy to answer. Okay, Shakti. Also on the policy part also, I mean, just missed the policy part. If there are any questions on the policy building of logistics domain or somewhat of retail, we can discuss. Happy to discuss that also. Yeah, over to you, Vidhi.
Great. Thanks, Megha. So yeah, I think as Shakti said, I am working at Shadowfax. It's been about a year here, leading some of the strategic key partnerships for Shadowfax. ONDC happens to be one of the biggest strategic partnerships that we've taken live in the last 1 year. So yeah, I have been working very closely with the ONDC team the last 1 year. lot of learnings and a lot of stuff, I think, which is still yet to be explored on the ONDC platform. So yeah, super excited about that. Prior to this, like I said, have been working on the e-commerce side of things. So about 6 to 7 years, I was working with Zomato, solving a completely different problem. I think here, the problem that we're trying to solve is managing supply, which is managing riders, and how seamless the process can be made. How do we match and manage our SLAs? On Zomato, it was a different problem completely, where we were managing demand. So how do you generate more and more demand from restaurant partners? So yeah, I think that's broadly my journey so far. Cool. I think we can move on to the next things.
Sure. Thank you so much for those quick introductions. Now furthermore ahead, we'll deep dive into the problem statements, and we'll ask our dedicated speakers to help us understand more about what is actually needed and expected out of those problem statements. Give us more in-depth brief about those problems that are listed on our website under the Next Gen Ventures. And we'll get to have more insights on the problem statements. Yet you have any more questions, feel free to post those on the chat. Anyhow, we will be covering most of your questions that have we've jotted down together all the questions, and we have come up with some selected ones. Will any which ways we are going to ask them those on your behalf. But if you still have something on top of your head, please feel free to post it on the chat, and we'll take it over from there. So Megha and Nidhi, if you guys are there and ready, so we can start with the first problem statement of the day, which is like last mile hyperlocal. So Vidhi, if you want to take that up for us and help us explain more about it.
Okay, sure. Okay, correct me if I'm wrong, and we can keep it interactive. But I think the overall, the agenda is sort of to understand how efficiently we can run last mile logistics, but at the same time work on the cost of delivery part of it, right? I think that there isn't really one right answer to it, because it's a mix of multiple things. It's the efficiency that you need to maintain for the rider. There is a certain amount of earning that you need to maintain for the rider, and I think I'll focus more on it as we go along and while we are addressing some of your questions. But I think the overarching aim for any delivery company or anyone managing last mile logistics is to ensure that there is a reasonable earning per hour for their riders, which is of course going to be a function of how much they get paid per order and how many orders they get in every hour, right? That being the overarching goal, then we can sort of work backwards to see how much we need to charge per order, per delivery. But having said that, I think in terms of cost optimization, etc., it sort of works. Like I said, it goes hand in hand with the kind of order density that can be created for riders, and that is something that teams together can work on. Ultimately, that should push the cost of delivery down. But if the deliveries are scattered and if the demand pattern is not exactly established or known, then this sort of remains a challenge. If you're talking about current delivery cost being high, then that is expected to remain at the level at which it is at if demand patterns are not sort of established. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, right, Vidhi. So
Megha,
basically, I just want to add something to this also and to the next problem also. So whatever we have defined in the next gen ventures, so would request the participants, whoever is participating, to even build the solution around it. Basically focus on what the open network can bring the change to the business models. So basically in the outside world, currently we are working in the platform way where the each and every entity is controlling the whole ecosystem. So when you are building this solution, let's say the cost is coming down to 50 rupees or 20 rupees, 25 rupees per orders, the business model can be innovated further from each and every entity perspective. For example, in the ONDC context, if I would say the whole ecosystem is divided into three parts. One is buyer apps, then others are the seller ecosystem or the seller apps. Third is the logistics participants. And if the participants feel that the logistics ecosystem also can be segregated further, And the model can be innovated in a different way in order to reduce the cost per order. I mean, that is the whole objective, to bring solutions around it. Other than what Vidhi had, that is like the basic one parameter to define the solution. Yes, actually, we can move to the second one also.
Sure, thank you so much. That's quite insightful. Maybe let's just quickly go ahead with the other one, and then we can start taking up the questions. So the second problem statement for the day is reverse logistics. Megha, if you want to shoot first, and maybe we can add it after that.
Yeah. So, with respect to this problem, I will just explain not exactly the words it is written here. So, there is a one segment of uh, that is returns we call in the e-commerce shipments, and one is called as RTO also, that is return to origin. So this problem, just to clarify to everyone, I hope we will, I think we didn't clarified it earlier also from ONDC perspective, that this is with respect to the returns only, not exactly RTO, but some of the solutions may fall in the RTO part as well. So the problem statement is saying that how to make the return pickups from the customer and so efficient, and so that it can be delivered back to the seller, first of all, in the right time frame. Second, there are very less frauds or no frauds, if that is possible, or the no fraud or no damaged product is picked up from the customer, in order to make that the whole ecosystem or the whole experience seamless from the shipment pickup from the customer and get it delivered back to the customer seller. So the how that whole ecosystem from and the whole process can be built around that. This is the whole problem statement around the returns part. And also, when we see with respect to industry standard, the way other e-commerce companies are working in e-commerce logistics, they are actually controlling the whole system, like how the shipment will be picked up, how it will come back to their warehouses, and how it will be delivered back to the seller, in what time, in what SLAs. But here, just remember that again, I'm mentioning the environment is unbundled, so you may not have the control or the access to the seller directly. For example, if you look from an Amazon or Flipkart perspective, sometimes most of the orders, like let's say 60-70% of their inventory is of their own, and 30-40% is the seller, the marketplace seller. So consider from a perspective that the inventory or the seller is not in your control because it's an unbundled environment. Then how the whole ecosystem will coordinate also further better. The whole coordination cost also comes into this problem statement further, which was not there this much in the platform world. So I think we can discuss more further this problem, but this is how in a nutshell it is. Yeah, Vidhi, if you want to add again.
I think you've covered most of it. We can sort of go right into the questions.
Awesome. Thank you so much, guys, for answering and giving us those insights about both the problem statements. To go ahead with the questions piece, we'll cover one topic at a time. We'll get started with last mile hyperlocal, and therefore we'll shift to reverse logistics.
Yeah.
So we'll pick up the questions from there first. Just give me one moment. All right. So I've got my first question in place. So somebody has asked, this might be a question from their project end. So we are thinking of creating a logistics layer in ONDC for delivery agents, which will suggest deliveries with lowest cost and fastest time to reduce the cost of deliveries. Can you please suggest if this is something already present in ONDC or done by gateway during multicast search?
Yes, I'll answer that question. If I have understood the problem statement or the question correctly, so basically somebody is asking that whenever a logistics buyer or a seller app in the ONDC ecosystem is buying logistics from a logistics service provider, so they want to know how they, first of all, how the choosing of how a logistics buyer choose a logistics partner, or to make the words more clear, let's call the logistics buyer as a seller app also. How the seller app will choose logistics to deliver the shipment. I mean, out of the So in the on search response on the ONDC API, you will get the responses from the multiple logistics service provider. So the basic question lies is how someone will choose the logistics service provider out of the multiple options provided to them. So in the ONDC, if I talk about the ONDC APIs, whatever we have, there is no construct to, to choose the logistics service provider. They will give you the variety or let's say we call it as the logistics service catalog. So there is a catalog defined. For example, what is a rate, what is a TAT, all those things, and what is a RTO rate. So that on basis on that catalog, all the logistics service provider give their responses. And this layer of choosing the logistics lies with the logistics buyers or the seller app. They build this algorithm with the logic at their end to find out, depending upon their need or their requirement, that which logistics buyer to be chosen. So NDC has also floated a guideline on the basis of that, how to choose logistics buyer on the NDC network. If it is not there, we will put a link along with this YouTube video should be going in. That is also there in the public domain. But at the same time, if somebody thinks that they can, seeing the ONDC APIs, if they think that solution also can be imbibed in the APIs itself, seeing on the basis of the what backend protocol supports, if it is possible and someone thinks that also can be innovated, I mean, that will be like a game changer, because so many other logistics buyer will not have to do these innovations at their end or build algorithms at their end in order to choose the logistics buyer, correct logistics service provider. So this is how I understood the problem. And the second part of the problem was this is handled during the gateway multicast search. So just wanted to clear what gateway is doing here. So there is a search API through which the logistics buyer places a request to buy logistics. And when buying logistics, I mean, what you need, you give the pickup and the end location, and you give maybe a phone number or the email address or whatever is possible to deliver the shipment, or the LBH or the weight of the shipment the someone provides. Basis on that search is broadcasted through gateway to the LSPs. And LSPs give the on-search response, and that is collected back by the gateway and given back to the logistics buyer. That is the only role of gateway, nothing else. So gateway role is only to broadcast and then collect back the information and give it back to the logistics buyer. Currently, that is the only role, and in future, this may also change that it may become only the broadcaster. The on-search response also will be peer-to-peer from the logistics NP to the seller NP, but not through the gateway. So in a nutshell, this is the role of the gateway. Just wanted to make it clear for everyone. Yeah, I think Shakti, we can move ahead. If there are more questions on this.
No, there's no follow-up question. We have individual questions coming in. If somebody who has asked the same question has any other follow-up questions, please feel free to post it on the chat. Or you can see 1-2 questions coming in place. I will pick it up at the later stage. But let's just now move ahead with the other questions for the day. Nidhi, if you have something to add up to any of those, just let us know.
No, I think related to this, could see a question around what would be the role of a logistics aggregator in ONDC. So coming from Shadowfax myself, we are a logistics seller app on the platform, right? So our job, I think, continuing in continuation to what Megha was saying, will be to provide our quotations each time that our system is pinged with the right kind of quotations based on distance, of course. And we promise a certain tact within which we can look to deliver that order. So our job, if it's a search on network, is to enable our quotations for all of the seller apps wherever we are available. We can move on if that answers. There's any follow-up question, can take it up.
Sure, you can definitely. Thank you so much for adding that up. So the next question is, can you share data around delivery count for our location, number of vendors, percentage of deliveries, and the type of deliveries? So he basically wants to understand what is the importance of delivery time for different sectors, number of riders per vendor, location wise, and time and cost distribution.
Got it. That seems very data heavy, but if I have gotten it right. So in terms of let's begin with maybe delivery time importance. I think from the ONDC perspective itself, on the hyperlocal side, I think there's various kinds of deliveries that can be scheduled. Or there's something called immediate delivery, which is most relevant for food orders, where you're expecting an order to probably get completed within 30 to 45 minutes, depending upon the distance to the customer's location. So that is immediate delivery. There's something called slotted delivery, wherein which is most relevant for grocery apps, right? Like a Big Basket, Zepto. Basically, for grocery use case, you probably don't need to consume it immediately. In which case, most of your needs, you're probably placing an order a few hours before you actually need it. So you can schedule an order for a particular time window to be delivered to you around. The different slots to be delivered to you in the morning, in the evening, somewhere in the afternoon, etc. So that on the hyperlocal side, those are the two use cases. Of course, we also have same day delivery, next day delivery, which is somewhere between hyperlocal and e-commerce kind of logistics. So those are the different use cases depending upon the product that you're consuming. If it is for immediate consumption, or it can be scheduled for a certain time. I think there was something around, just help me understand if I understood it correctly, but I think number of orders, is it? Or so number of orders, I'm assuming it is from riders efficiency point of view, because of course in terms of number of orders, that's pretty broad. I'm guessing it is in terms of
It's basically in terms of number of deliveries and types of deliveries. That's
so I think a good efficiency score for a rider would be to maybe be able to deliver 2 orders in an hour. That's going to be great. I think most companies on the delivery side, whether even food or just last mile logistics companies, they probably have between 1.6, 1.7, somewhere in that range. But yeah, if you can get to about as close as you can get to 2, I think beyond that, delivering an order, if it is, of course, if it's a slotted delivery where you're going to one location to deliver multiple orders, then it's different. But if it is working on the marketplace side where you're picking up an order of an individual pickup and individual drop, then about somewhere between 1.5 to 2 is the efficiency that you can look at. So those number of orders. However, of course, if it is on the slotted side, there can be more in an hour. But again, in that entire duration, probably if it's something like an 8 to 9 hour shift, a good utilization of the rider would be to be able to deliver about 17 to 18 orders in that entire stretch. Shakti, could you tell me if there's any other part of this question? Because there's multiple things that I just heard, but
there's a last piece to it. It's prompted for you again, which is, what is the importance of delivery time? So, for example, in different sectors, number of riders per vendor location wise, time and cost distribution for pickup, drop, and delivery as well.
I think in terms of SLAs, like I said, it depends upon what is the use case that is being fulfilled. Typically, just to give like a broad sense, in any situation. So again, there are 2 types of models in hyperlocal logistics also. One where we utilize our marketplace fleet, which is basically a pool of riders, and those riders are delivering orders for all sorts of brands, right? Which is something that Zomato or a Swiggy operate on, where you pick up an order, let's say from a KFC, then from a Burger King, then from a McDonald's, just using these names hypothetically. But you get the gist that particular delivery guy goes to all of these restaurants, is not dedicatedly working for any one restaurant. So in such cases where we're working on a marketplace model, which is what we are working with ONDC also on, the typical time that it takes, that is expected and would be a good time to sort of aim for, is that you expect the rider to arrive at the store wherever he has to pick up the order from, store or restaurant, within about 10 minutes or so. The restaurant should be able to, or the store should be able to pack up the goods and hand it over in the next 4 to 5 minutes. If it is food, it might take slightly longer because of preparation. But if it is grocery, then of course, most of those items should already be packed. So should be handed over to the rider in the next 5 minutes, not more. And if it is further, then if it is depending upon the distance, of course, of the order, for the time is going to take to, I mean, we'll have certain amount of time brackets that will take for the rider to deliver the order. But typically it takes about 5 minutes or so to cover 1 kilometer on road. So if it is a 3 kilometer order, ideally that should be able to get delivered within 30 to 35 minutes, keeping all these legs of the journey, which I just spoke about, in mind. And as the distance increases, we can keep adding 5 minutes to it. Like I said, it takes about roughly 5 minutes to cover a kilometer on road. So I think keeping that in mind, even customers today, even when you order from a Swiggy, Zomato, I think customers are also understanding of the fact that if they're located, if their home location is slightly farther off, they're also patient to wait beyond 30 minutes. If it can easily go up to a 45 minutes, depending upon the distance. So yeah, I think that should answer the question. Megha, you can add if there's anything else.
No, perfectly explained. I mean, everything is covered. Yeah, we can move ahead, Shakti. So next questions.
Sure. Thank you so much. The next question for the problem statement is, what specific technologies or systems are currently in place for hyperlocal delivery? In the given scenario, can you provide more details on the existing logistic infrastructure and technology stack?
Okay, so I'll take that. I think in terms of infra, like I said, I think I broadly spoke about. So I think how the overall journey starts is, say, when ONDC system or any other system today pings a logistics partner. So when you are when the customer is at a cart build stage or has placed an order, depending on various nuances which are specific to the system itself. When a seller app pings our system to figure out if an order can be accepted by a logistics partner, I think the first thing that the logistics seller's system does is to figure out if there are partners available in a given radius or not. So if I have to talk about Shadowfax's system, what we do is to check for partners, delivery partners that are free in that particular radius, say, radius between 1 to 1.5 kilometers from the place where we're getting that ping from. Or we also, in some cases, can look for riders who are at a nearly delivered condition. They have almost completed finishing. I mean, they're almost at that stage where they're about to complete the delivery of an order, in which case we can assign the order to them as well. There are multiple other checks that we keep in place, whether the rider is eligible for cash deliveries, for example. That's something that we don't have on ONDC yet, but multiple other checks are sort of in place to figure out the eligible pool of riders. Only if a rider is free, our system responds to ONDC system and says that, hey, we can take this order, and this is our promise stat or whatever, quotation, etc. So that's the first layer of check that happens, where we're checking for delivery partners being free. Of course, we have the rider's locations to estimate how much time it can take to get to the store, etc. In terms of further mechanisms or the control mechanism that is in place, as soon as the rider accepts the order, we record. I mean, there's enough visibility for the rider on his app to mark all of these stages, from when he accepts the order to when he reaches the restaurant or the grocery store to when he picks up the order from the grocery store. We can also, at these various stages, enable checks to to make it a foolproof journey, where the rider can be asked to click a photo of the package that he's picking up from the restaurant or the grocery store, just to ensure that the right package has been picked up and then further delivered to the customer. So he marks his journey in terms of pickup from the store, and then he's out for delivery, and then he reaches the customer's doorstep and then delivers the order. Again, when he's delivering the order, we can mandate him to, again, take a photo of the order that is being delivered. This becomes slightly critical in cases of food, where sometimes there are complaints of tampering, etc. So all of those checks can be put in place to ensure that the delivery is smooth. And all of this is trackable. It is all there on the app, at least from the logistics point of view. I know that currently on the ONDC side, we are yet to start showing that rider trackability to the end user, but I'm sure we'll develop that in the next versions as well.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. Megha, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I think regarding the tech stack, just wanted to explain from the ONDC perspective. If we talk about what the technologies available from the ONDC side, is basically a combination of 16, 17 APIs, which actually not only facilitate the whole placement of order and fulfillment, but also at the same time, they also provide some APIs to in order to handle the issue and grievance, and there is a whole ecosystem to handle the reconciliation and the settlement part. So that is on the ONDC part, wherein there are out of those API numbers I mentioned, there is search API, there is a init API, there is a this confirm API and update cancel. Also, this is basically all to handle the whole placement of the order and the fulfillment part of it, including the tracking API. But as Vidhi has rightly detailed out in how the logistics stack at the logistics partners end is working. So basically it's a combination of an order management system, service kind of serviceability, how the LSP is going to handle the serviceability part, whether they have to assign the rider or not. And third is basically how they're going to optimize the routes and provide the tracking service to the logistics buyer. Those 3-4 main things are there, and along with that, the main is the rider app. The rider app. So from the tech part, this is from the ONDC plus the LSP perspective. In a nutshell, what is required. I mean, we can go more if time permits. We can go more in detail on each and every service. But yeah, let's see, Shakti. Yeah, move ahead.
Sure. Thank you so much for addressing that. The next question here is, can you provide a more detailed breakdown of the current delivery costs, especially for pickup, delivery, and insurance?
Because you are on mute.
Sorry. Like I said, in terms of delivery costs, like I said, I think all players in the last mile logistics space try to optimize for the earning per hour for the rider. So if I have to give you some numbers here, and also as you rightly, I think the question itself has given a breakdown. So yes, there is a pickup charge that we have to sort of give the rider in case there is a certain first mile distance that the rider has to travel in order to get to the location of the store. And then major part is, of course, last mile. Like I said, logistics partners, depending upon their density of riders, should be able to pick a rider where the rider is located within the nearby vicinity, where you don't have to necessarily incur that pickup cost, right? Because pickup cost is sort of a variable. It's not as if it applies in all conditions. If your system is able to find a rider within like a 500-meter radius, then you do not necessarily need to pay anything to the rider. So that's the way that you can optimize for it. Like I said, depending upon your own density of riders. The major cost here will be last mile. I'll come to insurance also separately. In terms of last mile, hard to attach like a number in terms of what should be the ideal cost for an order. I think the overarching aim, like I said, is to maintain that earning per hour, and to give you a number there, depending upon city it's going to vary city by city. Delhi is going to behave very differently from Bangalore, depending upon the rates that are prevalent, the industry-wide rates that are prevalent. But a ballpark would be, a driver would expect somewhere between, for working about 9 hours on the platform, they would expect about 90 to 100 rupees to be made per hour. Now, that is the number that all last mile players try to work on, and you have to constantly keep optimizing that. Again, one important thing, while I read something about Swiggy Zomato here, it is that this number has to also be competitive, right? If one logistics partner tomorrow tries to get its cost down and tries to slash that earning per hour metric for their riders, you can easily see a churn from one platform to the other, because as you know that all of these delivery partners they're not employees of any of these companies, right? They're not on a Shadowfax payroll or a Zomato payroll or a Swiggy payroll even. So there is equal opportunity. There's enough and more opportunity for them in the market to move from a Zomato to Swiggy to Shadowfax to wherever else. And hence it is important to keep that earning per hour metric uniform, because it's very easy for drivers to compare different apps and see where their earnings can be maximized. But broadly speaking, the number is about 90 to 100 rupees per hour is what we should be paying a rider. And then, of course, we work backwards to figure out what we should be charging at a per order level. I hope that answers. And in terms of insurance, like I said, insurance is something, most of these partners, we do have, I can talk about Shadowfax. We do have basic insurances in place for all of our drivers. It is a mandatory and a chargeable cover with the riders. So we are covering them, and of course these are discounted, heavily discounted rates that we provide them the cover on. So we are covering them for death and for accident, any such emergencies we're taking care of, but it is a pay model, of course, on discounted rates. Let me know if that answers, or if there's anything that's to be added.
It does. It does. Megha, you want to add something to it? I've got a follow-up question here.
Yeah.
So, are there any other hidden costs or factors that contribute to the overall delivery costs? If you may, can
Um,
think of them.
I mean, of course, there is, I think on the e-commerce side, there is a heavy use case of reverse. So when there is a return, where there's a return of the order, there is a huge cost, there's a cost assigned to that as well. But those are all variables that sort of come in when they come in. Even on the hyperlocal side, there is a return, or there's a return for, say, in grocery, there is a sort of a use case for return of the order, in which case, of course, there is an additional charge that is paid from the logistics partner side to the rider, and further even to the buyer of logistics, which is seller app. In most cases, we charge a fraction of our forward charges. So the amount of time and effort and the money that went into going to the customer's location, we charge a fraction of that, or somewhere close to that, in terms of reverse as well. So that's the other. Of course, there's some other cases in terms of cash. Say if there is any kind of cash leakage. Of course, on ONDC currently we're not live on cash, but tomorrow if there is, if we do go live on cash, for any reason the cash is not collected back by the rider, it's the responsibility of the logistics aggregator, Shadowfax or Zomato, Swiggy, to be able to sort of pay that money back to their vendors. So there is a little bit of risk associated with that as well. In terms of cash orders, of course. So far, everything is online on ONDC, so that's not really a cost. But I think if I have to talk about some of the other nuggets, then it would be around cash management and reverse logistics.
Great. Thank you so much for addressing that. Megha, if you do not have anything to add up, I can go ahead for the next
Till
question.
the time, let's move ahead. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move.
All right. Okay, so there's a technical question here. What technologies and algorithms can be employed to ensure real-time tracking of delivery vehicles and optimize routes for cost efficiency?
I think we sort of covered that in the question before.
Yeah, in the tech stack we covered, but just briefly, I mean, there are some mapping services which are used for real-time tracking. For example, people use geocoding, and there are some Google Map APIs or MMI APIs, and there is some OSRM, open source routing machine also people utilized in order to find out the correct distance from the pickup and the end location, and how to geocode the correct location of the live location of the rider and put it back on the logistics buyer or the seller's app. That is how the whole tracking ecosystem works. I mean, there are so many articles, or so much of the content is available on the website, or say various websites in the open internet. I mean, you can see this is how it is done, basically using a mapping service.
Sure. Thank you so much for addressing that as well. So I'll pull up the last question maybe for this particular problem statement, and therefore, if time allows, then I'll pull up the other questions as well. So how do I handle dynamic changes in the delivery network and adapt my logistics layer accordingly? Is there a way around?
So is this from like the seller app side, someone who has to buy logistics? Does it?
No specifications given.
Yeah, exactly. There was no such clarity on this question, so I assumed that maybe there are changes. For example, with the, let's say you are located a rider and the rider is not available, then how? And also there may be like traffic conditions and everything. So how all those are handled even after the order is confirmed?
So if the I think once the order is confirmed for any I'm sure this flexibility would be on for other logistics partners as well. But for any reason, if the rider finds it difficult to deliver the order, whether he gets stuck whether he gets stuck in traffic or anything, we have the functionality to be able to reassign that order to another rider who might be closer to the location. Of course, we kind of need to figure out the cost of that product, because if that's already taken by the first rider, but there is the option of reassigning the order and at least making sure that that's getting delivered to the customer on time or closer to time at least.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, Shakti, we can move ahead.
Okay, I've got a last question. Maybe we should complete this one, and therefore we can go ahead with the other ones as well, right?
Please,
Uh,
please.
we're running short on time, but let's just quickly cover this. Can you provide more insights into how dynamic pricing and cost allocation can be implemented within the logistics layer to achieve the target cost per order? And what are some of the factors should I consider when dynamically adjusting delivery costs?
So Vidhi, maybe this is a surge costing. They are gonna surge pricing, basically. I felt the question, yeah.
Sure. So I think in terms of surge or dynamic, I mean, if yes, if any logistics partner is probably not being able to provide the right number of or the adequate number of riders, then of course, among other issues, it could be something to do on the rate card that is perhaps being offered to the riders, in which case running certain incentives for them, which incentivize to complete a certain number of orders, and only then their incentive sort of kicks in, or making sure that they complete a certain number of deliveries in the peak hours. Say if there is any kind of a use case to have more riders in, say, the dinner, meal time, or lunch, or early hours of the morning, then certain incentive schemes can be done, can be put in place by the logistics partner to incentivize the riders. It works on both sides, I think, because all of this is performance based. So it's only upon meeting a certain threshold of orders, or upon clocking a certain number of login hours, that you can sort of avail those conditions. So it's sort of a win-win on both sides, and helps to sort of shape supply according to demand. Does that answer? There's anything else can take that up?
Am I allowed to ask a question? So actually, like for example, this particular problem statement is, say, individually being solved by all the delivery partners, right? Say Shadowfax, delivery, say inside Swiggy, Zomato, also Uber, everywhere. So how does this how is this problem statement relevant on the ONDC network? Are we supposed to solve as an aggregator of all these partners, or are we supposed to build an entirely different, say, partner app which will cater to this problem statement?
You want me to take it up, Vidhi?
Yeah, sure.
So basically, it's Ronak, you can think of anything. I mean, if you think that the whole cost of doing business or the whole unit economics are coming out in an aggregator model, I mean, go ahead and do it. So one has to figure it out, that what will be the best business model to work as an aggregator. I mean, somebody asked a question also. Let me cover the aggregator part also. For example, Shiprocket is working as an aggregator with us in the intercity part of the ecosystem. So their basic job is to give those orders to all the players they're working with in the market. So it is their job. Even, I mean, they are putting up a margin on the cost of what, let's say, delivery or e-com or express fees are offering the prices. They're putting a margin on top of that. But it is their job to compete on the network with even the delivery or the express fees are already there on the ONDC network, and they are also as an aggregator. So they have to figure out a business model where they can actually compete with them directly also. So similarly, the way you are asking whether it is to become an aggregator of these, I mean, if you ask me, there is no hyperlocal aggregator currently in my knowledge. A big hyperlocal, small are there. A big hyperlocal aggregator is not available in the country who can actually act as an aggregator for each and every hyperlocal company available in the market. So
Right.
if the unit economics works like that, I mean, go ahead. Yes, the availability part can work out better in that scenario as an aggregator. That is one. And if you think as an individual, the way Shadowfax or Danzo is also there with us, LoadShare is also with us, the unit economics are working that way, then someone should think a model around that. That is one's perspective. That, I mean, I cannot comment because Shadowfax numbers are maybe unit economics may be entirely different from what LoadShare is, right? And what Danzo's are. Yeah.
Right.
I
So
hope I that answers.
right, I understood. So only issue which I feel is, would those people be willing to share their data or their, say,
They will not be
availability?
they will not be willing to share their data. What can happen is the way aggregator works in the market is they share their APIs. I mean, you have to do an offline contract with each and every network at every entity. For example, Shiprocket might have an offline contract with delivery or with the express fees or with ecom. Okay. But in the ONDC ecosystem, what happens is, let's say delivery is there, Shadowfax is there, load share is there, everyone is there. Once as a logistics buyer, as a seller app, you need to transport your shipments and you give a search response. The whole ecosystem is available. You do not have to do an one-to-one offline contract or integration with each and every uh, this company, logistics company. Once you give a search request, everyone available in the ONDC network will give you a response that I am ready to ship your shipment at this rate. That is the whole beauty of the ONDC network. And if you're saying that you want to become an aggregator and whether these companies are available to give their APIs, that depends on them, whether they want to work with you or not. It's as simple as that, right? I mean, ONDC will not play a role in that.
Understood.
Again, I'm mentioning the business model. Okay? We
Understood.
can
So it,
take more questions, Ronak, later. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Let's speak
Let's
up.
take up the questions later, maybe. Thank you so much, Ronak, for putting that across. Let's just quickly move ahead for the other topic of the day, which is reverse logistics. I'll quickly pull across the first question. So yeah, can you guys help and provide insights into the existing process of handling returns? What are the current challenges faced by sellers and logistics service providers in identifying fraudulent or damaged returns? Is what the first question of the day is.
Yeah,
Megha?
Shakti. So I will explain how the industry is
Yeah.
working. I mean, because if you ask, if I mean, just want to lay out the process that in ONDC currently we are not live with the returns process. We are still figuring it out, and maybe with the new versioning of the APIs in the 1.2 or the 2.0 version, whenever we go live, we will go live with the returns part. We are live with the RTO, but not with the returns. So I can explain this is that there is where this problem statement lies, that people can build the whole system around it, how to handle the reverse logistics so that we can optimize the ONDC contracts as well. So
Yeah.
in the industry, how it works is there are different product categories. Let's say it's an apparel, it's a grocery, or it's a white goods or electronic items. So each and every product has different specification. The responsibility of the pickup lies with the logistics company, and responsibility of the only the pickup, but not the quality of the pickup or whether the fraud, if the product picked up is fraud or damaged. That depends what kind of contract the company has done with the client. The logistics company had done with the client. Let's say they want to pay for a quality check, and so there are certain quality checks done on a different kind of product. Let's say we talk about apparel. So in apparel, there is something called as EN number. There's a unique number, European article number. That number is basically checked while picking up. If that number is checked and the item found is correct, then the rider will pick up the shipment, otherwise not. So there, as I mentioned about apparel, there are different specifications for mobile. For mobile, it's the IMI number. So those kind of specifications are laid out, and then the rider goes and check those specs or the particular thing for the each particular category, and then they pick up the shipment and come back to the center of the logistics service provider, and the shipment is returned back to the seller. This is how the whole reverse pickup is done. And the reverse logistics is the same as the forward logistics is. Only difference in the reverse logistics part is how to do the pickup. Because the forward pickup is very easy. You go to the seller, they will give you a good packed item with the proper shipping label and everything. Here, the rider has to carry the shipping label also. Because the customer will not put a shipping label to it. So those different things are different things from the forward and the return is basically the pickup part, pickup and the way the shipments are packed, and how fraud happens because I mean, we know all the stories that the shipment picked up is not the one which has to be picked up. That means the rider has not done his job. They haven't checked the specifications properly, or the logistics buyer is not paying the logistics service provider for to do the quality check. That actually hinders the whole or brings the whole loss to the whole ecosystem where the fraud or the damage happens. This is how it is done in the industry. I've just briefly explained. It's quite detailed. Just explain in a very brief way. Yeah, Shakti.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for briefing that out to us as a whole process. I guess there's another question related to returns regarding the assessment of return rates. Would you like us to focus on specific product categories, buyer demographics, or return reasons? Or do you want a broader overview across all return?
See, I don't think there is a broader overview kind of thing. Overview is what I gave just now.
Yeah.
So when somebody is building a product, one has to lay it out, let's say, maybe pick up few categories, maybe whatever is the easier thing available in the ecosystem. For example, somebody knows if I'm going to buy a mobile or if I want to check a second-hand mobile I'm buying, then what specifications I would check. They can take that into account and bring the whole checks around it. So, I mean, it's not necessary that to focus on all the categories, but focus on one or two categories. Yes, demographics in India play a role. I can mention about India, but I don't think there is so much data available in the public ecosystem where they can figure it out. There were some questions around data also. So I'm just mentioning that there's no data publicly as far as I know. There may be, yes, the community can share with others. So can find out the specification and then build the logic around it rather than working on all the categories, figure out one or two categories and then work around.
Sure. Thank you so much, Megha, and also thank you for answering the next question of mine, which was centering around data. But let me just quickly move ahead to the next ones. In the post-observation period, what specific customer pain points regarding a return or are you most interested in identifying? Are there particular areas of friction you'd like us to focus on evaluating?
See, there are different reasons why the product is returned. I mean, one can get on the internet also 4 5 major reasons are there. So first of all, why the return is happening, and if you talk about e-commerce returns, there is a system of prepaid and COD. So there are more returns in COD than in prepaid. So someone can build logic around it, prepaid or COD. Second is uh, why the return is happening and why the damages are happening, or the way I mentioned about the specifications of the items which someone has to check whether those are being checked. If they are checked, then what percentage of returns are still fraud or damaged picked, even if the specifications are checked correctly, and that will briefly tell the how well the algorithm is written in order to check the product specifications while picking up the shipments. Or even after, there also may be scenario. I mean, if someone is building things around it, there may also be scenario, even if the specifications are checked correctly by the rider during the pickup, the still fraud and damage can happen during the transit layer when the shipment is traveling from the rider to the seller. So the whole logic or whole solution that someone is building should also take care into account that how the transit layer also has to be controlled so that damages and the fraud should not happen. I mean, I can pick up as a rider, I can pick up the shipment from a customer, checking the whole specifications, measuring that this is what has been picked up. And once it moves from me to the one warehouse, and from one warehouse it moves to another warehouse or the hub, the shipment is changed in between. How to control that also? That is why this problem may look very small, but it actually controls the whole ecosystem from reverse pickup till the delivery, the whole pickup as well as the transit part. Yeah, Shakti.
All right. Thank you so much for addressing that. Vidhi, if at any given point of time you have something to add, please stop me by and do the needful.
Oh, sure. I'll
Sure. Coming to the next question, how can the proposed algorithm facilitate real-time decision making for pickup agents without causing delays in the return process? Are these any constraints on the time each delivery agent can spend on each pickup?
Yeah, so as I mentioned about the specifications to be mentioned, if I am as a writer going to pick up the shipment, I don't know, I have to pick up a shoe, or I have to pick up a mobile, I have to pick up some washing machine or some refrigerator, what I have to check. I mean, I'm not well equipped. I have, as a writer, is not well aware what he has to check and everything. So, I mean, whenever he is going, he should be knowing what 5 things or 6 things he has to check during the pickup. So it is necessary that it is available with the rider what is to be picked. Second, on the time available to the rider, so let's say we assume he's delivering some 50 shipments a day. So in order to deliver those 50 shipments in the whole day of 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours, whatever he works, he has to deliver the shipment, or also the pickup has to be done in that limited time period of 8, 9, so that he can make his earnings for the whole day. So on the basis of that mathematics, one can figure out how much time is available for the rider to pick up. He has to travel to the customer door, pick up, check the specifications, pick up, pack it, keep it, travel back to the center. So all those things he has to take care. On the basis of these things, one has to figure out how much time is available for the rider in order to check the shipment or do the checks on the shipment.
Sure. Thank you so much for addressing that. So I've got a one last question from this category is what data sources will be available for accessing return rates? And what parameters should participants consider while evaluating the likelihood of fraudulent and damaged returns? Adding up to that is, are there specific matrices or data points that should be given priority?
I think data points I explained what all one should cover, but sources of data, I don't think it's available, but I can just briefly mention that, as I mentioned, prepaid or COD. So there are less frauds or less return rates in prepaid, very, very less, let's say 2-3% long back. Maybe it is little lesser than that, but in COD it is higher. Then in apparel category, it is very higher. Sometimes it's 15 to 18% also, or with some specific brands or with some specific marketplaces, it is much more. So these kind of aggregated data points may be available with respect to the percentage and what is the industry standard going on in the, but data sets, I don't think so. If again, I'm saying if anybody has, and please share it with us also. We will also try to bring more clarity to the whole ecosystem. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Megha, for addressing those questions. Thank you so much, Vidhi, for addressing the questions previously. So those were some of the questions which have come from the community and participants who are already there with us. So I can see 2-3 questions in the chat as well. If time allows and if you guys are okay, we can quickly go ahead, address those questions, and we are good to go for the day.
Yeah, Shakti, we can.
Yeah, I'll pick up a few. So maybe we have addressed some of them already, but I'll pick up a question from Nakul Sharma. He says, can't a mediator company, Zomato, Swiggy, etc., charges extra money just for delivery, like 15 fixed for the driver, even if you are buying from somebody else, but 50 rupees is fixed in every app? Means he's trying to, means he might have looked at the buyer apps and where it shows 50 rupees is the charge for delivery or something. That sort of means, if I'm not able to comprehend that question, but if you guys are able to do that and answer
If you are getting it.
Sure.
Good.
No, as much as I understood, I think it is corroborating the same point that we were making earlier in terms of maintaining that rider earning per hour, which is what a Swiggy, Zomato also have to sort of maintain on their side. So those rates will pretty much be standard across because, yeah, sure. I think Nakul had a.
Yeah, Nakul, go ahead, please.
Hello, hi. Actually, I don't know it's similar or not. I just want to ask if the riders have a back end cost like fueling the tank and other stuff too. So, does the Swiggy and Zomato provide enough amount so they can fulfill by the like riders?
Yeah.
That's
So
the question.
the Got it. So the fuel cost is something that the rider has to take care of on his own. And hence the earnings are designed in a way, the earning that I was earlier talking about is designed in a way for the rider to be able to take care of that cost of petrol, etc. So yes, well, that. But to answer it, I mean to close that question, the answer is that the fuel cost is something that the rider has to bear on his side, and hence the earnings have to be designed keeping in mind that cost. Let me know if that answers if there's anything else that.
Okay, yeah. And I have one more question. It's like while as you said, they have to pay the price is set. How much costing is going to take and how much is not. So what is the proper amount? Like if I want to earn more as a delivery boy, I'm just telling you as a perspective of a delivery boy. Because I asked almost 250 delivery boys of Swiggy, Zomato, delivery. So it's like if I have to earn more, I have to work a lot. Like I have to do 70 to 80 deliveries. So like I just want to ask, can't we just raise the price and we can maintain some 50 deliveries per day? So like it would be good for like for the delivery boy and for the company. Just like
Raise the delivery price as in the price that you pay the rider for delivery. Is that what you mean?
Yeah,
या
that's what we.
एक्चुअली मतलब जब भी मैं उनसे बात करता हूँ दे सेड कि लाइक बहुत एग्जॉस्ट होता है एंड दे हैव टू अर्न मोर सो दे हैव टू वर्क वेरी मच लाइक फ्रॉम 7 a.m. to midnight 4 a.m. They have to work like this to earn more.
So I think some of this is, I'm sure someone may have had a little bit of not so good experience, but nobody is not, I mean, majority riders are not working those kind of shifts. In fact, it's moved a lot to a gig based scenario where riders on all aggregators, in fact, including Shadowfax, we started this much before, where we created some sort of a gig feature on our app where a rider can book slots within which he wants to do deliveries. Definitely would be very difficult to find riders who'll be working from morning 4 or 6, like you said, into the wee hours of the night. It's impossible to sustain that kind of a. Of course, some people have to do it for whatever reasons, unfortunately, but that's not the story for the majority of riders. Answering the other point about increasing the pay, I think if you're able to put in, like I said, if you're able to put in about 8 to 9 hours, and that's the kind of earning that most apps are sort of giving at the end of the day, which is a decent amount of earning for a rider to be able to meet his petrol expenses and other such things. Further, of course, if we were to increase the rate that we pay to the rider, that will sort of impact the overall value chain. So today, I as any as a logistics company, I cannot just go ahead and pay the rider a higher rate without passing that on to my client, for example. Nobody wants that. So in a way to manage it efficiently, where we are also maintaining a decent amount of sustainable earning for the rider, we have to sort of optimize the costs. So,
Yeah, Nakul, think from a perspective, somebody has to absorb that cost. Is the customer ready to pay? I mean, if I'm ordering food on Swiggy Zomato, am I ready to pay 60 rupees or 50 rupees for a 2 kilometer ride or a 3 kilometer ride? Depends on that. Do that also. I mean, everybody has to make money in the whole system.
Okay, actually, because I have read the article where Airtel, Vodafone, and Jio sat together and they have fixed the price. Like we are charging 250 rupees, 250 rupees. So if you see the pricing of all three companies, they are similar. So that's what I was saying. Like Swiggy, Zomato, and others can set like they can fix the price to the maintaining the costing for the like for the delivery boys as well as for the customers.
Yeah, sure, Nakul. Okay. Thank you, Shakti. We can see more.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll pick up one last question from the chat.
Yeah, one or two I already answered.
Yes.
Chat. Yeah.
Yes, we can answer the one Suman has asked. If you can see that on the chat, I can prompt it for you. If that is something which you have left out.
Logistics operators had already started EV fleets, which brings down the cost of delivery per order as averages 8.5 rupees per kilometer, including rider income. shed some light on if ONDC is looking to integrate with them, or are they looking for something which increases the efficiency of this overall? Okay, so yes. So the answer to the question is yes, that ONDC is looking to integrate with them. Yes, there are few partners. For example, Ola Logistics is live on ONDC network, and they are providing the EV fleet at a very low reduced rate to ONDC logistics buyers. Yes, also at the same time, even if there has to be a trade-off, I mean, we can add more to it. There must be a trade-off between the cost and the efficiency. Or efficiency, by efficiency, I mean the time to deliver. What is the SLA? I need the food in 30 minutes, and if I'm saying that I will pay only 8 rupees or let's say 20 rupees to the logistics partner, but I will get the food in 1.5 hours. As a buyer, I may not need that food in 1.5 hours. So I'm happy to pay 50 rupees. So it depends upon the kind of item. For example, I'm ordering grocery. In case of grocery category, the EV fleet may work. I have the time of 60 minutes to deliver the shipment, and it's not a kind of thing that will be like stale food or something, but yes, I can, or the food is not hot anymore. In that case, the EV fleet works. So the all solutions will not work for all product categories, but yes, we are happy to welcome the logistics partners who are actually building, who have the EV fleets and are bringing the logistics cost. Maybe bringing down the logistics. Maybe they may not work in the whole. Their availability may not be through Pan India, but if it is a certain cluster or certain city, that also will work. That also will work. Yeah. I hope, Suman, I answered your question. Maybe if you want to add, I mean, that's how I see from an ONDC perspective.
Yeah, no, just adding to that, I think there's immense push, I think, from the aggregator side also to, have a certain percentage of their fleets converted to EV for many reasons, of course, sustainability being the topmost. And yes, you're right, Suman, actually, thanks for even bringing that up because we hadn't touched on EVs at all. But yeah, that is, of course, overall also expected to get the cost of delivery down. As Megha said, it might not fit every use case, but need that's something that we need to figure out, where is it that we can deploy such bikes. Speed is, of course, also something that we need to look at. There are high speed and low speed EVs that are currently available. Battery charging is also something that one needs to think of and figure out. How do you do swappable batteries, etc. So I think all of that infrastructure and all those questions are currently we're all figuring that out. At Shadowfax also, we have about 20 to 30% of our fleet which we have moved to EV. So that is something that we are working on and building towards. But I think for this to go full-fledged, I think infrastructure is something that all companies are also looking at in terms of how you enable charging. Cool. I think we can move on.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vidhi. Thank you so much, Megha, for addressing those questions there. I guess we are already touched base all of the questions covered each segment. If you guys have any more questions, please feel free to write back to us on our official email. You can find that on buildforbharat.net. You can also look into the Discord server of ours where all of us are present, and we can get your answers, questions answered altogether. But a very, a handful of thanks to everyone joined together with us, and an ample amount of thank you to Megha and Vidhi, both of you, for addressing those questions and giving us more insights on both the problem statements altogether. But that's about it for today. I do not have any more questions coming in, and I see that we have covered most of the questions that we already have existing, and some of them from the chat. Due to time constraint, we have to wrap it up here, and we can take up the questions offline. So if you guys have, all the participants, if you have any questions, please feel free to write it back to us, and we'll take it forward from there. Thank you so much, Megha, and thank you so much, Vidhi, for being there.
Thank you so much, Shakti. And yeah, whenever you're gonna live with this video on the YouTube, Shakti, I mean, would request if people want to discuss there more. I mean, we both will be there to answer there. I'm answering on behalf of Vidhi. I'm sorry, but second, then you have given the email ID also already. Yeah, that's what I was saying.
So we've got some of the upcoming AMAs as well. Keep an eye on your inboxes, and we'll get back to you guys. But all the very best. We look forward to your innovative solutions coming forward.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vidhi. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Megha.
Thank you, Shakti.
Thank you.